And we are now live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to FBS Chat. And tonight we have amazing people joining us from all over the world, and we're here to talk about climate crisis. And this has all come about from ENCAF, which Olivia will be talking to us a little bit about. So tonight we have Brian Jennings joining us, Jonas Wells, Peter Szabo, and of course the lovely Olivia Eken. Before everybody introduces themselves, Olivia, would you like to kind of talk a little bit about ENCAF and why we're actually here?
Yep. So ENCAF is a climate action group in Enfield, and they've got over 100 organizations involved in working with them. So that ranges from like places of worship, so churches, mosques, synagogues, to different businesses, different organizations, and kind of all tying together under one cause, which is environmentalism. And I'm from ENCAF Youth, which is the youth group. And yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's a good enough explanation. I can expand if you like, but yeah.
Yeah, I think during the conversation in the next hour, we'll get to, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Francis Seeley, bless him, contacted me and kind of asked, well, what are you guys doing? And I thought, I don't know. But those of you who know me know that I don't shy away and just go, well, we're going to do something. But first I need to kind of look at what is the climate crisis, because I know a little bit about it, and I'm not going to lie, guys. You know, I don't use plastic straws anymore, and we recycle, and we do basic things like that. But actually, as a parent, how much of a conversation am I having with my children? And my role here tonight is to give everybody the platform to have these conversations, but also as a parent to learn myself. My poor daughter's going to hear about this later on tonight. But if we could just go around and introduce everybody. Brian, shall we start with you? Who are you? Where did you come from? And what are your best hopes?
Okay, I'm Brian Jennings. I teach philosophy and ethics at Ghana Christian University College in Accra, Ghana. And my best hopes are to have a sense of how we can gain the courage and the hope and the insights to engage with what is going to be a difficult future.
Thank you. Jonas, shall we move over to you?
Yeah, right now I'm just scared. I'm trying to hold that panic at the moment and just breathe. I'm Jonas Wells. I live and work in Sweden. I work with public sector organizations and in a place called Avesta, South Dalarna, which is a region in the middle of Sweden. And I train solution focus a lot of my time and try and, I don't know, support people around me to have better conversations and better meetings. Try is the big word. I don't know, I'm an anthropologist, so I've kind of got a history in wanting to see how things are connect and how things fit and move around and, you know, bump into each other. And this question of climate crisis is scary, really scary, but it's something that I find myself being drawn to for a long time. And I'm just happy that we're in a room here together with other people who are similarly interested to talk about these things. And I'm also a parent. I've got 3 children. They're all, I mean, what are they, 19, 23, 25, and they teach me about the climate crisis. They open the doors for me to learn. And yeah, I suppose we'll be talking more about you know, conversations with our children. So I have some experience of having conversations with my children. I won't say I'm an expert, but I'm here to learn.
Yeah, same. Peter?
I'm Peter Szabo. I live in Basel, Switzerland, and I also happen to have 3 children. And when it comes to this climate crisis topic, they're very worried. So you might be scared, Jonas. My kids are worried about me. They urge me to hold back and stay to the things that I really know about. But it's kind of, well, I respect the fact that I don't publish what I find, but I can't help but keep exploring more about the broadness of what we are facing. And I'm fascinated by it, and I learn more and more to be. The more scary it gets, the more grateful I am for everything that is available and possible now.
I'm just waiting for Brian to come back on. Brian, can you hear us? It might be his internet, maybe.
Ah, here he is.
There he is. Brian, are you playing hide and seek with us? And Olivia, would you like to say a little bit about you? Sorry, go on. Go on. Olivia, would you like to say a little bit about who you are and how you got into this and what your best hopes are from this conversation, maybe?
Yeah. So my name's Olivia. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a climate activist. And I was put in contact with Aisha through ENCAF, because I'm part of ENCAF Youth. And I guess my best hopes for the future would be to have a planet that's actually livable, one where nature is kind of the balance between nature is restored and we stop destroying it. And I really hope that from this conversation, we can actually learn about how to have difficult conversations about the climate crisis, because it can be very upsetting, it can be very frightening, and it can cause a lot of anxiety, and it can cause a lot of fear for the future. And I think it is important for us to have all these different conversations and really be honest, because we don't have time to kind of sugarcoat it or kind of gloss over the facts. So yeah, I hope that we can really learn a lot from each other during this conversation.
Brilliant. And I think we should start having this conversation. And I think that I do want to thank my solution-focused colleagues. As soon as I put something up on social media to say, help, I need my SF family around me to kind of do this, the three of you jumped up and said, yeah, we're in. And I know Olivia's doing an outstanding job where she is. So thank you so much. But what is the climate crisis? I mean, if we can kind of now, remember, I need the dummy's guide for myself. I'm not saying this is for everyone out there, guys, but give me like a, and maybe you can all kind of, one person starts and some of you jump in. What does it actually look like? What am I looking for here? What is the crisis about? Are we making a big deal about it? I mean, what's going on here?
I'm so happy you started with the most easy question. Jonas, do you want to say something?
Well, let the dummy start. Let the dummy try and start.
That would be me then, Brian.
Because of the way that we have been living for the last 200, 300 years, we've made all sorts of changes to the world that we live in. And so we each produce rubbish, and some of that rubbish can just go back into the soil, but other parts of that rubbish can't, and it's just there, and it's having all sorts of nasty effects on the soil and on the water, and so that's one part of it. But the biggest part of it are all the fumes that we put out into the world. I'm old enough to remember the big hums from our cars and from our power stations and from our burger grills and our bonfires, and all the things that, you know, and that started with the Industrial Revolution, when we started using coal and then oil and then diesel, which was supposed to be better but was actually a trick to everybody. It was actually worse, and all of this has been going up into the atmosphere, and because of the way that the sun heats the atmosphere, it used to be that part of the sun's rays would get dispersed or deflected from the atmosphere. But because of all of the CO2, it means that now, instead of the sun's rays being dispersed or deflected, it's all getting absorbed by the carbon dioxide, by the CO2, and it's making the world hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. And what makes it worse is that the ice caps that used to deflect other parts of the sun's rays, send it all back up, they're melting, and so all of the sun's rays are making the place hotter and hotter and hotter. It's like when you put a kettle on, you know, a saucepan on the stove, and then you forget about it, and everything just gets burnt up. And, you know, worst case scenario, that's what we're beginning to head for. We're going to make the world almost uninhabitable within the next 100, 200 years. And some say even sooner. So that's the climate crisis. It really is a crisis. It's no longer climate change. It's not going to be a nice and sort of permanent summer's holiday, but it's going to be some very, very extreme weather events and climate change. And so we've already seen some of those in the fires that we've been seeing in North America and in Siberia. So this is already happening. It's already real, and it's not going to get better. But there are some things that we could do to stop it from being really the worst it could be.
I don't know if I can.
Sorry, Joe. So I just had this crazy thought about, you know, people like me worrying so much that one day artificial intelligence is going to be taking over humankind, but actually it's us destroying ourselves before we can even get to that point. Really? Sorry, Jonas. Jump in.
No, it's. I just want to put out a warning sticker now. I mean, it's good we have this a byline at the bottom coming up. This is difficult to take in. It's difficult to process. You know, it's about things that will happen in our children's lifetime, guaranteed. And it's already happening. I mean, most of the forecasts are very conservative and careful, but we haven't counted in tipping points. We haven't counted in cascade effects. You know, if something releases something else, and it's going to release something else, and things are going to might go faster than we think. And this is scary. This is one of the reasons why I'm super scared. And it's not just a technological issue. It's not just about, you know, yes, gases is what's driving it, but there's other things too. I mean, we talked about this when we had a prior meeting. Is this a social crisis? It's an ecological crisis. It's a social crisis. It's a civilizational crisis. And when we say we are the ones who do it, yes, it's not just everybody. It's mostly the industrialized part of the world. We have a lot of what's called guilt or debt that we are now reaping the effects of. And this is difficult to handle in every aspect. I mean, ethically, socially, personally, and I'm acutely aware that this will affect families, it will affect communities, it will affect, you know, our closest relationships, as well as the relationships on the other side of the world, which we're also kind of dependent on. Our whole system, I mean, if you've learned something from the pandemic, is it doesn't take a lot to shift, you know, shift things in the world, because we're so acutely dependent on everybody, on each other, and we're just as dependent on nature. And this is something that I think coming to me a lot in this whole climate crisis discussion is, what is our relationship to nature really? What is our relationship to the world as it is, or the universe, or to how we are connected to life? Because there's a lot going on in this issue, and I imagine people will take it in their way, and as I'm doing in mine. But yeah, this is a trans-contextual, it's trans-relational, it's lots of different things all at once, and that's part of the scary bit. I don't know, Peter, would you like to weigh in? Help me, please. Help me.
I'm trying to help myself by making it very personal. So what is it to me right now?
Yeah.
When I started to retire 5 years ago, I was looking for something new and productive to do. And instead of that, I stumbled upon this climate crisis. At that time, I stumbled upon climate crisis, and it opened a totally unknown, fascinating, interconnected, complex world that I always have lived in, but I was not aware of. So it kept me busy at first. Then it made me extremely sad and shocked and desperate. I was running all kinds of being solution focused, this idea of a miracle, all of a sudden gained new sense. So whenever I thought about it, I ended by saying, except for if there is a miracle happening. Right now, Brian, you said hope. I do not have hope that things will be okay. Instead, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am getting more and more grateful for every breath, for every day, for every tree, for every plant, for every conversation, for every person that I'm connected to. And that is what the climate crisis is for me right now.
Would it be good if just some of those things would be able to carry on?
Are you in the field of philosophy by any chance, Brian?
Yes.
Well, then please answer your question yourself.
I like that.
Brian, would it be, from your philosophical and moral point of view?
I think it would. I think that I think there are different things that we can. There are different stances that we can take. I think certainly it's good to treasure what there is, and I think that's a positive thing. I think we could easily become nihilistic and apathetic, like, oh well, nothing matters, so I'll just carry on. It's all the same. Or we can become apathetic. There's nothing we can do, and therefore we won't do anything. And I think either of those routes are our paths without value or any kind of honor. That if there is something that we can do that means that some of the things that we treasure will persist, then I think that if we're going to have at least some regard for ourselves, we will be able to do something with some sense of worth and integrity. So I think there are a range of responsibilities. There's a range of different, if I can use the term, different levels of love that we can show. So I think, there's a certain degree of self-love that if we are able to do even the small things that we can do that will maybe improve the chances of something of value that we see as being good persisting in the future, then we can move forward with some sense of honor. But I think that concept of love needs to be wider. Is there something that we can do to at least ensure that that maybe some human life with some dignity persists into the future? And I think we have a responsibility to love our neighbours of the future as well. But that's not enough either. We need to love the world that is there and that we've enjoyed and cherished, and it's cherished us. And if there's something of future life that by our actions that we can preserve, then that's something that we can look forward to with some sense of worth and integrity. Yeah. Right. And from my point of view, it goes higher than that to transcendent reality, but not everyone would agree with me on that one.
And Olivia, how would you kind of describe the climate crisis, and what does it look like for us?
Yeah, I think I would describe the climate crisis as more than an environmental issue. It's a social issue, and it disproportionately affects different communities because it's not going to affect everyone equally. And I think that is something we have to begin to recognize and have to consider it and put at the forefront, I guess, of everything, because it is a social issue. It is a racial issue, it's a gender issue, it's a class issue, it's an issue for Indigenous people, for people of the LGBTQ plus community, and it's going to affect all these different marginalized communities in a completely different way that is going to affect us in the West or in the global North. So I think it's really important to recognize that, the climate crisis is a social issue, and it's not just about planting more trees and saving the planet and stopping sea levels rising, because that is very important, but at the same time it's also about looking at how it affects different communities and how it really kind of highlights the inequalities that we already have in the society that we live in and how it targets specific groups. So yeah.
So all of a sudden this whole climate crisis seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
This conversation.
It's not going to be easy to solve the climate crisis, which is why
this is my ignorance, right? So all of a sudden I'm thinking, wow, there are so many factors that need to be considered. So for people who, have a job, go to work, have children, partners, whatever it might be, where can we start? What can we do to contribute towards? Maybe it's too late to save ourselves, but what can we do to contribute towards helping us maybe live a little bit longer, caring for our environment a little bit better, looking after each other a little bit better? in terms of climate crisis, what is it that we can start doing if we're not doing it already, and asking for a friend?
I'd be very curious to hear from all of us.
I think the current pandemic has been very alarming, because the rich nations have hoarded all the vaccines, and so in Ghana, I'm one of the few fortunate people to have been vaccinated on the basis of my age and medical condition, but the majority of the population is not, and Delta is here. Now, my concern is that the political and economic system that generated that response is also going to be the same political and economic system that is currently actually perpetuating and promoting the climate crisis. And so there does need to be political change, and that we need to see. We need to, and that's something like Extinction Rebellion is actually a positive thing, and so I think there needs to be social and political activism. Otherwise, the hope for the majority world is going to be pretty limited.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, actually, it can be a bit difficult to get involved in activism. There are a lot of barriers for different groups, and I think that especially if you're, I don't know, like a mum of 4 children and you're working a full-time job, it's not easy for you to just kind of skip a day of work and go to a demonstration. So I think that kind of talking about climate change is where it kind of all starts, in my opinion. I think education is the key. I think that having conversations, even if you don't know anything about it, because I mean, I'm not an expert and I don't know everything about climate change, but I think it's all about kind of having conversations and kind of opening your mind to it, and just recognizing that there is a climate crisis and it is going to affect us, and that we need to be having these conversations, and we need to be kind of widening our knowledge and learning more about it. And even though it might not be within everyone's means, I think that kind of the power is within kind of talking with people and learning more about it, and kind of doing whatever you can to kind of acknowledge that there is a climate crisis. I mean, you don't have to suddenly switch out all your plastic straws to paper ones and all your plastic cups to, I don't know, reusable ones. I mean, it can start with anywhere, and I think really the power is through your words. And I think that kind of having conversations as a parent with your children, or as a child with your parents, with your peers, I think that's really where we can start to kind of help kind of mitigate the climate crisis as an individual, because I don't believe individuals are responsible for climate change. But I mean, if we can have these conversations, I think it's definitely something that we do need to be doing, because there is a power when we kind of unite together. So yeah.
I mean, do those demonstrations work, guys?
Of course they will. I mean, the more we get out there and make our voice heard, even through our actions, how we consume things, how we eat things, how we move around, all those things are ways of protesting and ways of you know, like what Brian was talking about, standing up for your integrity and your what was the word you used? Honor. There are lots of ways to protest, and I think one of the ways to protest, probably the best way to protest, is have a conversation with your kid or with the people you love, or with, I mean, these are difficult conversations, sure, but right now at this point, I wonder if there's anything better to do. I don't think there is. To have conversations with people you love, and people that you respect, people that you admire, and I admire my kids, and I admire them so much. They're the best. And I was thinking about this. I mean, do I have a conversation head on and go, let's talk about the climate crisis? Let's sit down for a cup of tea and have a climate crisis. It's not going to be easy. I'm just thinking, just having the time to like, for instance, right now, my youngest son, we love music, and we love exploring music. So we're just exploring music together, and just love that. And my eldest son and I, we love playing these 5-6 hour board game, 2-player board games, and a weekend goes by really quickly because we just love it. And just, we don't talk about the climate crisis, but the thing is, just building relationships, spending time with the people you love, because all that matters. You know, the textures, the tones, the excitement, the dynamicism of being together, the connectedness, the love, all that matters. And sure, yeah, they know I mean, we could take a walk with the dog, and I look at it. There's a greenhouse over there. Oh, would love to know what's going on there. That could be so useful going forward. And you know, greenhouses are good things because we're going to need food in the future. And so they know. I mean, it will come up in any conversation anyway. But just, you know, that mother of 4. I mean, she loves her kids, right? So there's something there. There's something there. I don't know if I'm off on a limb here, but I think so. When we were talking about this group, I said we're going to talk about climate crisis, and we're going to talk about parents and conversations with our children, which is probably the most difficult conversations we can have. I said, yeah, this feels something that we should be talking about.
And actually, I said to my daughter when we were on over the weekend, and I just said, I'm just going to say a couple of words to you, and I just want to see what your thoughts are. And I said, climate crisis. And I didn't say anything else. I just wanted to see what her response would be. And she's 12 years old, and she said, Mum, we're not in a good place. But while there are greedy politicians and greedy people out there, nothing we do will help, because it's all about money. And I thought, God, is that the way you view the world?
12 years old.
I mean, Peter, what do you think about
that? Probably the more I confronted myself with answers like that, the more my willingness and eagerness to be at service to your 12-year-old daughter when she's so clear about that. In having a conversation with someone who will not try to talk her out of it, who will not try to seem things more hopeful, but actually taking her very seriously. And somehow during the last year, I ended up finishing a course where I do voluntary work, and I have palliative conversations with dying people. So people who are confronting the fact that their life is ending. So it's not a question anymore, will I or will I not, and let's hope everything will turn out. But slowly they're getting comfortable with that fact. And for me, that is the most the conversations that I am now most comfortable with. So I would love to continue the conversation with your 12-year-old daughter exactly at that point, along her thinking, along her questions and ideas. And I can already hear Olivia say, ooh, so what can we do? For right now, I have found something that I am passionate about doing and that I am willing to do. Having difficult conversations with people who find it very, very challenging to be left alone in a society that prefers to think in solutions and ways out. So if I were talking with people who are facing death, it would be the conversation about, what pills and what operations can we still take, although we know that the diagnosis is terminal. And yes, there is a slight possibility of miracles, but having conversations with people who face that seriously and honestly, and comforting them in what they are, and seeing the courage and the moral uprightness with which they confront what they're facing.
I think there's something really beautiful in the solution-focused way of thinking and being, really. That the people we talk to are the more important than you. And they have a lot to offer you. And I mean, we are curious. We find, we're into all these lovely things that people can show us. But on the other hand, there's something very deceptive with solution focus. And this is our desire for progress, for things to be better, which we use as a tool to kind of move, to explore possibilities or to create hope. And we can do that still. But I think in a climate change kind of conversation, we need to bring that down a bit. We need to be in the moment and be more respectful for the time that we are together, and find that balance in a way without, pushing. Also, okay, what's 10 on the scale? No, maybe we should just be a little bit in the moment and just explore. So, what's 10 for today? And stay in that. Because it's one, a third thing I can say about solution focus. We're very good at incremental small steps, the mundane, the ordinary, the common things, the things that, the smallest thing that brings us joy. Those are the things that we have tools that help us focus on, and I think those are useful for us in our conversations when we have in these times. I don't know if you agree with me on that. I'm making it up on the spot. I feel, but these are things that I've been kind of thinking about for a while, and so the kind of the limits and the possibilities of solution focused practice, because we haven't got the solutions for everything, but we might be able to offer something, and this kind of openness for the people that we talk to, that they're more important than us. They can help us learn, or they can not selfishly, but they can help us to be better together. And some are trusting that just being together is going to help.
But whilst we are together, and I was going to ask Olivia, whilst we are together, assuming that we are together and we're all united in supporting each other through this time of crisis, whether the end is nigh or there's a way out, whatever it might look like, what is it that we could all be doing collectively, and how can we educate our children to do better than we've ever done? I mean, Olivia, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's all about, in terms of, I think parenting. I mean, parents have such a big influence on children, and I think it's all about kind of teaching about nature, like possibly through nature. I think it's about redefining our relationship with nature. If we teach our children that nature is something you can exploit, something that we have an infinite amount of resources that are just there for you to take, then we're just going to breed another generation that are consuming and over consuming from nature in a way that we shouldn't be. I think if we kind of change our relationship with nature by teaching our children that nature is something we are part of, something that we have to coexist with other ecosystems and other animals and other species, I think that that is one of the most powerful ways to kind of teach your child about climate change. You don't have to sit them down at the table with slideshows and videos to necessarily show them. You could take them to the park. You could go for a walk along the river, and just kind of, it's about learning about your relationship with nature. And I think as a child, that is something so powerful and something that will always stick with you, because I mean, most of my childhood was surrounded by nature, and it really does it has a massive impact on you, especially to learn that this is something you're part of and you don't want to destroy. So I think that's one of the most effective ways, I guess, is to have these conversations with your children. They don't have to be terrifying conversations. I mean, climate change can be a very scary issue. But I think, yeah, it is kind of just about redefining our relationship with nature in terms of regeneration, but also empowering your children. I mean, the fact that your 12-year-old daughter thinks that there's nothing that can be done about climate change, I mean, that's scary for me to hear, and I'm only a few years older than her. I think it's about empowering your children, that they do have the power to change. And even though we are kind of reaching ecological collapse, and I mean, it's not something we can necessarily fully escape, there is a chance for us to do something, and we need to learn and have these conversations about the solutions. And I think one of the solutions are that we are powerful, not just as individuals, but as a collective. And when we kind of rally together, I mean, we were talking about demonstrations earlier, and of course they're effective because that's when people unite and people use their voice together. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Aren't you so lovely?
Thank you. Not as nice as you guys.
No, it's brilliant. I actually had a disagreement with my father last week. I don't know if my dad's listening, but my dad raised my brother and I to respect humans and respect animals and respect plants and care for nature and be one with nature. You know, all of that. Taught us how to climb trees, but love trees, all of that. And then he was moaning about him having to buy a new car with low carbon emission. I said, but Dad, we're all doing our bit for the environment. God, but they start from £30,000 and blah, blah, blah. And it all came down to money. And I said, but Dad, you drive a Ford van and a car. So you have two vehicles, one for work, which is diesel. And then you got the other one, you know, all the pollution there. And he's like, but it's so expensive. And I thought, oh my God, all those years of talking to us about being one with nature and all of that, it's just gone out the window. I mean, what are we saying to people like my father, who I love very much? I'm very sorry for mentioning you, Daddy. What are we saying to that? Because there's one thing talking about it, but there's one thing actually modeling it and make it just, you know, normalizing those behaviors.
What a daughter to have. Wow. And I mean it.
Name and shaming her father. Sorry.
No. I mean it in the loving, caring, and caretaking way. Yep. It doesn't sound like an offense, what you said. It gives food for thought, leaving him the liberty and giving you the space to be clear about how you see it.
Because, I mean, he's not going to be the only one thinking that way, right? So for all the parents out there that actually want to support their children, having those conversations with their children, looking at the way that they're living their lives and what difference it could make if they made slight changes even. Because there's one thing talking about it, and then there's another thing actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a big difference. And we've heard already, you know, the social effect, the economic effect, all these different effects. Words I don't even understand that Jonas was using, but I'm just going to pretend I'm cleverer than what I am. And you just think, wow, we have a lot of homework to do to catch up very, very, very quickly. And then we've got to think, what is it that I'm going to do as an individual? And how am I going to inspire others to make those changes? But actually make small changes that lead to bigger outcomes, if you like, if we're talking solution focused language. So where do we start? We're having conversations, but is having conversations enough to see a shift?
A shift towards? Say more.
A shift towards changing our children's perspective of their own lifestyles and not accepting certain things anymore. Because I know young people like Olivia who do fantastic work, they have a voice and hopefully they are being listened to. And we have, ENCAF and Enfield that are doing an amazing job. But is that enough? What else can we be doing to at least make our life on Earth a little bit more comfortable? Like actually doing.
I mean, I'm a strong believer in the fact that individuals shouldn't have to bear the whole responsibility to reduce the climate crisis, because it wasn't us who created it in the first place. It was the money-making industries and the overconsumption of our resources that we've seen by these major companies and governments. And I think even though it is their responsibility to kind of mitigate the climate crisis, I think that as individuals, we shouldn't sit and just say, oh, it's not my responsibility, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, if it's within your means, if it's something that you can do, I think that you should try and do everything that you possibly can to reduce your own carbon footprint and your involvement and role within the climate crisis. I mean, because we all do have, as individuals, probably a small part to play because we're all interlinked with these systems. But I think it kind of comes with recognizing maybe where your biggest kind of issues are. I mean, not everyone has to switch to an electric vehicle, because maybe not everyone uses a car every single day, but you may be eating a huge amount of meat every week. So it's maybe about recognizing where your kind of biggest, where your emissions are coming from and what you can do and what's within your means to kind of live a more sustainable life, because not everyone has the money to be vegan and not everyone has the money to buy an electric car, like your dad was complaining about it being too expensive. But it can come with making small changes, like maybe walking to the supermarket and not buying a plastic bag maybe, or just little things. And even though they are tiny kind of changes that you can make and may not have the biggest impact that you'd like to see, I think as an individual, if you want to change your actions, that is probably one of the best ways to do it. But I do believe one of the best ways, actually, sorry to contradict myself, actually, the biggest thing that you could do probably is just use your voice. I mean, kind of gather with other people, create a movement, join a movement, and kind of challenge the systems that we currently have and the way that we are exploiting the planet. And I guess that would probably be the biggest thing that you could do. But I mean, everyone has a different life, and it's not within everyone's means to necessarily make all of these changes. But I guess it's about finding out what works for you and not putting too much pressure on yourself, because that can be exhausting. But just being honest with yourself, I guess, and then seeing where you can make the changes and what you can do to reduce your role in the climate crisis. So yeah.
And through doing that, also having conversations with your children, because I just kind of saw myself in Sainsbury's declining a plastic bag and then turning to my 6-year-old and saying, we're not going to get a plastic bag because, and start having that very short but meaningful conversation, and having lots of those, random conversations. It plants a little seed in their head. This is why we don't purchase a plastic bag. Yeah, as an example. Brian, you've been very quiet, and I love your voice. Say something.
I think I've just been very pleased listening to all the small things that it's one of the things with SF is everything is small steps, and we can maybe, I think, to use one of our colleagues' ideas about sort of the map of the future, that we can see maybe the goal where we want to go, and to somehow to have a world that might be somehow sustainable, but we don't see the way there. It's all ant country, but we do see the first few steps that we can take to begin to move towards that. And I think that's what we've been doing. We've been talking about the small steps that we can take that actually that actually become meaningful for us. And it's by taking those small steps that we actually build up a sense of agency, and even a sense of hope, but also a sense that, you know, we are not just bystanders. We are doing